All right, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Tuesday. So, another really productive day, I would say, for option activity. Really, some good signals going on today, as well as it's been recently. So, some nice movers. Obviously the overall indices cooperating. When we have these days where we see really good option activity, we basically just don't need. We don't need the markets to really take off. So it's a kind of bonus when we see this kind of ramp into the close, which was pretty unusual. The last hour, we really finished on the closed, and small caps, which I've been talking about for the last couple of days, finally got a little bit of relief today, but they finished on the highs too. They broke into value for a little bit today, but they finished up another 22 basis points, as did the Qs. So a nice end to the day for the major indices, but I'll start going through the option activity in just a second. Let me just talk about sectors. Just looking on things that fell today, the banks kind of cooled off a little bit. The regional banks were down 60 basis points. Utilities were also down 30 basis points. Biotech also, a slight cool down day as well. Finished in the red, down about 20 basis points. That's XBI and IBB. Energy also, energy was, excuse me, sorry, energy ETFs finished down as well, just slightly. You could see crude got a big bounce here around 9 o'clock this morning, but then completely faded. So still crude, I keep toying around with going long some crude things. Well, I actually was long some crude things, and I took them off yesterday, but I was looking again today with that bump in crude. But I really want to see crude get back above 51.50 for me to kind of participate on the long side. Although the energy names have been holding up pretty well, with crude coming, dipping back below this 51 level. But that's a whole nother story. Best performing sectors, and you had some ones that were a little bit different today. Telecom, IYZ was up. That was your biggest mover. That was up 2.6% in terms of U.S. Sectors. So I was just looking through that. I know we saw some Verizon calls a little bit earlier today, but it was a bunch of names like this. Vonage, which actually saw a call buyer at the end of the day. VG, but was this Windstream, GSAT. CenturyLink also up all over 4%. A couple names up really big. So that's what caused that for the day. But you can see there wasn't really anything. This whole group was green for the day. So it's been a pretty hammered group, the telecom names. So, it doesn't surprise me every now and then for these names to bounce a bit. Chinese internet names, really, really strong. Alibaba probably looks exactly like this whole chart. This is, again, the KWeb. This is the China internet name group. I talked about this name, whenever the Hang Seng was up over 2% last night. So plus 2.2. I always will look at these names because it's just a better environment when the Hang Seng is up that much. So a lot of momentum in some of these names. Today, I think it was BABA, which was one of the better ones. Like I said, the BABA chart looks exactly like that KWeb ETF. I think it was YRD that led. This name was up 7.4%. We saw a little bit of call buyer. My take again is just it's momentum. Guys are looking at what names are up the biggest and what names look really strong, and then somebody will go ahead and buy some calls in something that's moving as fast as it was. Yesterday it was BZUN. Same thing. BZUN was the best performer out of the Chinese internet group yesterday, and we saw some calls bought at the end of the day. This name kind of flattish today. We'll see if we can get some continuation with that name tomorrow. Besides that group, I could talk for 15 minutes about the Chinese internets because I find them so interesting. But besides that, the gold miners actually did well. Home builders. Again, are just continuing to break out. Kind of looks a little bit like a hanging man type candle for the home builders today. We'll see if that might signal a short-term top for the home builders. But this name has just been on fire. And if you've watched my videos before, we saw just months back. We're talking back all the way in the springtime. We saw a whole bunch of ITB. Again, this is really the home builders ETF. I talk about this a lot, but there's over 65% of this ETF is names like DHI and Pulte and Toll Brothers and what's the other one? KB Homes. So they've been going after huge block type calls that are out in January. And if you just look at the open interest in ITB, you'll see what I'm saying in January. So those have worked out really well for that buyer. So that was amongst the strong names. Steel names were actually did okay today as well. They turned around and went positive. We did see, I'll kind of mix in some of the call buying that we've been seeing. ATI, this is a steel name, Allegheny Technology. This name's worked pretty good on option activity before. So ATI 5,000, I think it was around 5,000 of these that went up. Yeah, 5,300. And again, going out to January, it's not the weekly stuff. Someone's looking for a decent move. I again will always bias towards the longer dated plays than the stupid momentum plays for the week that people on Twitter get all excited about. This to me just tells me that people are putting down a bigger chip, and they're waiting. They're giving it a little bit more time. They're expecting the stock to move up. So rather than just looking for tomorrow for the stock to go up. I know everybody doesn't. Some traders don't have a lot of patience, but they like to talk about the weeklies. So that was a significant trade today. Let me just go to a couple of the big ones today. Kroger, speaking of weeklies, saw a lot of weeklies trade today. It actually saw some Novembers also traded, but this name has just gotten beaten up. And this is not the first day that we've seen. So you can see 16,000 of these Kroger weekly ones. Excuse me, 11,000 and then 16,000 next week. They also, like I said, they bought November's as well. But Kroger, just keep in mind, has been seeing sharp aggressive call buying, not this much, but all the way down. So maybe somebody is going to be right at this point. This is definitely, it seems like more than what we've seen recently. But it's been just about every day where there's been like another 1,000 or another 2,000 calls that are bought that just haven't worked, just all this whole way down, basically. Or I would say since earnings. Since earnings, we've been seeing that. So we'll see what happens. Full disclosure, I am in a very cheapy play for weeklies that I'm holding overnight. I hit one target in them. Let me get to just a couple other signals that we saw today. Credit Suisse. I was actually just talking with somebody this morning about Credit Suisse. Credit Suisse, I've had a target or an alert that I've been waiting for it to go off around $16. It's just been really, really choppy. This name, it's done nothing all year long. If you go all the way back to last December, the stock's exactly where it was for the last year. So maybe this thing is ready to make that next move. I'll show you what they did here in Credit Suisse. So I did take this trade, March 17.5 calls. These calls, I was talking to somebody about this, and they were saying, oh, maybe I could do, rather than the 17.5 calls, I could do this calls, or you could just buy the stock. It's a $16 stock. I think sometimes if you regularly trade options, sometimes we try to get too cute in options. Hey, it's a $16 stock. It's not really that big of a deal. So pretty easy just to go long the stock here and not have to worry about something with, even though I'm in March, I'm in the long dated ones, but I may add, if it does get above 16 bucks, I may, when it actually, my alert hits, because it didn't hit today, I will go ahead and buy some stock as well. But this is attractive because of this. I mean, this base. This is just this year. If you actually stretch this back for now, yeah, I think that's. I know. Is this the whole? This is the whole year. Yeah, but you go all the way back here, and the stock hasn't done anything. So once this thing gets going, I have a feeling it's going to pop. But not yet. It's almost there, and it's almost ready. Because keep in mind. It's got to here a couple times and it's fizzled and it's fallen. So we'll see if this time it has some momentum to it. And then there was just a number of other trades, number of trades from yesterday as well. Let's talk about NRG next. NRG, they just keep going after calls. It's like every 2 days there's another call buyer in NRG. I think at this point, it's the same line that they've been going after, which is the Jan 26s. Looks like this big block went up in the money as well, but this thing looks like it's ready to go as well. So you got an MACD crossover that's not too far away, not too long ago. I think this thing can also really pop here. It's moved nicely from 23.40 to 20 to 26, but I think somebody's looking for a bigger move than just this last couple bucks here. I think it makes sense to have a small portion of this. Walmart, a lot of Walmart calls. Actually, could take this one off here. I guess I had this earlier, but they added to it. So that's why I have it on my list twice for today. So Kroger, Walmart as well. They do, I believe they have an analyst day coming next week. So it could be that they're buying calls for that event. But they went in several times today for Walmart. Yelp, this is another name that looks like it made a 52-week high today, but you kind of have to look back and you could see this purple line version point of control taken out. But you look back a couple of years, and this thing was a $100 stock at one point. So it's just out of range. So sometimes you want to take profits at 52-week highs, but this one, considering its history, might just be going. And you could see it's just starting an MACD bullish MACD crossover. So this one might have more to go. They went in a couple times today in this one. Couple other names, tech. I've been talking about this one the last couple days. This is a refiner and smelting name for the base metals, copper, zinc. It's been holding the 200-day moving average. That's the white line on my charts, and it looks like it's just starting to go. Again, another MACD crossover. Here, which could signal that it's got more upside. It reports in a couple weeks, so maybe somebody's looking for a move into earnings for tech resources. I think the chart looks great in this one too. Then I didn't even mention the big theme of the day. The big theme of the day was the airlines. What a huge day! I talked about I believe I talked about in yesterday's video LUV, Southwest Airlines. I had to check open interest today, but sure enough, it did increase open interest. So I'm pretty sure I talked about that in last night's video. And then besides this, which is the call buying that we've been seeing in the last couple of days. I mean, just a huge day, up 4.5%. Then we saw call buying. The next biggest one was JetBlue. JetBlue was just huge call buying. So this was all in the first hour of the day. JetBlue, huge day. That was up 7%. So these airlines have been a really challenging trade, but once they get going, it's like anything else. Once they catch the momentum, so look for continuation tomorrow after a monster day for this group. There is an ETF that covers the whole thing. If you don't want to play individual names, you could just purchase the Jets ETF, which is a $31 stock, and just a huge day, up 4% for this ETF, and a nice huge bounce on the 200-day moving average. I can go on and on with names because there was some really good stuff today. There was some weekly fire eye calls. I forget about AMD. They went after aggressively again in AMD call options. So this semi name up 6%. So again, so a lot of the areas that I'm talking about so far in this video are just big names, names that went up really well. And I started off saying how there's been such good option activity lately, and it just continued today. A couple other small names, Blue, kind of sneaky call buyer in this one. Again, high risk name, I would say, but I like the way that they went ahead and got after these. You can see these were the sweeps, and look at the price of these. So don't be discouraged by like the small contract size. They're still pretty good sized trades. I think it added up to around $560,000 just on this one alone. So that's up 140. So someone is looking for this thing to. They didn't even go that far out of the money. They basically went, just a little bit outside of the strike, the current price. A couple other names for option activity that we saw at the end of the day. A little bit of pharma stuff. MNK, ABEO. A couple other energy names were mixed in here as well. So, we'll see what happens. I know everybody's talking about this fear and greed index, which is like a 90 now out of 100. Keep in mind for the fear. Sorry, that's my trade blotter for the day, which I could show you what I did. Also, Tesla was a hell of a trade today too. This was a small trade. I was just kind of playing around with some weekly calls. Got into it for 350, took the thing off for 630 today. And again, using the value areas, very nice move with Tesla. Go to the 5-minute. Right here, here's the move outside of value, a break outside, and a break outside of value and a retest, and then off to the races for the rest of the day. And I think someone increased their price target. But yeah, so we're getting pretty, the sentiment is high right now. So, I think you want to be taking profits personally, and then lengthening some of the trades, maybe putting on a hedge. I talked about that in the trading room today earlier. You want to be buying the hedges when it's cheap. The VIX is like a 950, which again, the VIX, by the way, if you look at the components of the fear and greed index, the CNN fear and greed index, which you could Google that and you could find it. One of them is the VIX. So that shouldn't surprise anybody, right? I mean, the VIX is at a 950 level. So it is extremely cheap to buy puts. Again, you want to be buying this, just to use the analogy, you want to be buying insurance, homeowners insurance, when your house is not on fire, when things are calm. Things are calm right now. It is so cheap to buy insurance right now. So if you want to stay in the, for what I've been telling traders in the trading room, if you want to stay in with your positions, it's really easy to buy some protection here. I mean, who knows what it could be that could cause a spike in volatility, but it just feels like we're due for something. So I'll leave it there. But again, just another just great day in terms of in terms of what we're seeing as far as on the tape in terms of aggressive option activity. So thanks for watching tonight's video. Have a great evening, and I'll see you back in the room bright and early. Again, if you're not a member of Tribeca Trade Group, we start at 8:45 in the morning, but we start like at 8 o'clock in the morning, posting all the upgrades and downgrades and trade setups for the day, which have been really fabulous the last couple days. So you can check us out, tribecatradegroup.com. You can get half off the first month with coupon code TTG. Thank you.